What's up, summoners, and welcome back to another ProGuides Wild Rift video. My name is Kirks, and for today we are going to take a look at how to counter the meta. This time around, you won't only be shown specific champion counters, but also thematic counterplay options depending on what type of team you're facing. So let's get right to it. First up on the list is a champion that has been revived thanks to the item changes. She wasn't a bad choice before, but now she's actually broken. What champion could I refer to here? It's Zaya. With the implementation of Essence Reaver and Navori Quickblades, her entire kit was brutally buffed and is now competing for the top spot among AD carries. However, the question remains, what does Zaya counter? Think about her passive ability. Whenever she uses a spell, her next few auto attacks are empowered to shoot feathers through enemy champions, or minions, or literally any unit. Those feathers remain for a little while until they either disappear or are recalled by a third ability called Blade Caller. Therefore, all compositions that want to run into you are in grave danger when they're facing a Zaya. She might just kite backwards and leave behind tons of feathers that will absolutely demolish the enemy team. Nonetheless, be careful of the new items. You don't want to fall into the Solari Chargeblade trap on Zaya, it's just not worth it. With the correct build, you can have your second ability available at all times, which functions as an attack speed steroid. Not only that, but thanks to this you may delay your Zeal item purchase up until later. Even better here is the fact that you can go for a Runon's Hurricane as it applies your second ability's on-hit bonus damage. It's actually crazy how much damage you'll deal with that. Just hop into a practice tool and check it out. It's quite wild. However, the best part of this champion is the fact that we are able to use Blade Caller multiple times in a fight due to Navori Quickblades. So as long as you're able to kite, you'll be doing more than fine. Just picture yourself rooting the enemy team multiple times in a row, dealing massive amounts of damage at the same time. It just won't be a good time for the enemy team, trust me. And another good thing about Zaya is her safety. She can stack up multiple layers of defensive tools. One is her ultimate ability, the other is her flash, and the last but not least option comes in the form of buying Proto Belt. Every single one of those options can save your character and potentially carry the game. The extra spicy part here though is the Proto Belt. As you climb through the ranks, you'll start to notice that the enemy's movements start to change. They'll adapt to your ability to leave behind feathers and move accordingly. But with the power of Proto Belt, you can relocate yourself in times of need to catch them off guard. That's always a nice thing to see. And by the way, for those who are not familiar with the terminology, all champions follow a specific theme. For example, Alistair wants to go in, he's a very aggressive champion. Compare this to Lulu though. She wants to enable a hyper carry by granting him a lot of extra stats, so you'll rarely see a Lulu run through the enemy team head first, right? And just thinking about the desired mode the champion should be played in can grant you a big advantage over your enemy, be it solo queue or competitive. Before we continue with today's video, make sure to check out our Discord in the description below. Giveaways, events, and a lot of community interaction are waiting for you there. So come by and check it out. See you there. Next on this list is Lucian. He's a very oppressive laner that likes to dominate the enemy early on. Even though he's not able to stomp in all matchups, he's still able to go even. However, keeping the nature of solo queue in mind, it's very easy for him to punish the enemy's mistakes on cooldown. Through his excellent poke, thanks to his piercing light, he can set up good all-ins in lane and use this lead to start snowballing. But there are still matchups in which you have to be patient. Overforcing any kind of play will put you behind and limit your options. Fortunately for you though, there's item combinations that allow you to go into different modes. For one, you could go Essence Reaver into Solari Chargeblade. With this, you're looking to maximize DPS in close quarter skirmishes. On the other hand, you have Essence Reaver and Cyrilda's Grudge. Using this for your core build enables you to provide backup with your ultimate ability. Rather than just dealing damage, it will now deal even more and slow the enemy at the same time. Therefore, the enemy cannot run away from you or your team, and if you happen to cull a CC target, you'll quickly realize that they just end up dying from your ultimate ability alone. Regardless of what build you choose, you'll still end up being useful simply for the fact that you're Lucian. But there's one more thing you have to learn when you're interested in playing him. Be aggressive, but don't get too cocky. In order to unleash this champion's full potential, you have to learn to maneuver in fights. Lucian's auto-attack range isn't the biggest, and utilizing his mobility isn't the easiest. However, once you're used to his kit, you'll see making yourself progress very fast. One thing you should particularly look forward to are the late game teamfights with a full inventory of items. Infinite dashes with the power of Navori Quickblades, by the way. Your DPS is going to be nuts, and any other AD carry that gets in your auto-attack range will be instantly blown up. That feels really good and looks very good at the same time. As we've gotten so far now, let's take a small break for our question of the day. With the latest patch being a very AD carry oriented patch, what would you like to see next? A patch towards supports, mages, bruisers, or anything else you can think of? Let us know in the comments below. The man with the cards is an interesting choice when it comes to Wild Rift. His strength doesn't necessarily come from his innate damage, but from his ability to set up kills. The easiest way to play Twisted Fate is going for the typical ability power based build that is focused on hitting one gold card and letting your team collapse on their target. You'll pack a punch, but only when you have the cooldowns required to do so. Other than that, you can try an on-hit build that on one hand is really fun, but also very difficult to pull off. On the other hand though, you're not really allowed to make any mistakes with that idea in mind. Once behind, you'll lack the damage and health power to make plays happen. But if you happen to snowball, you'll attack fast with heavy hits, and that's always enjoyable to witness. Just take a look at the gameplay and decide for yourself if you want to take the risk of going down the on-hit TF route. Is it worth it? Probably not, but it's fun and niche at the same time. But that's not primarily what we're here for. Akali has been a bane to every champion in the game. The squishier the champion is, the less he likes the ninja. To make her life a little bit harder, we want to use Twisted Fate into her, mainly for two reasons. One, we can use our ultimate ability in a team fight to reveal her, and two, to stun her with our gold card. Don't forget how Akali as a champion operates. She goes in, smoke bombs, waits for a second ult charge, and then, almost magically, two of your carries have disappeared. Other than that, get somebody on your team to buy the Ghosties enchant so she cannot get away with her shenanigans. The following part is a bit smaller as it's focused on lane itself. With Braum being a melee champion, he's very susceptible to ranged champions and their poke. Enchanters basically force Braum to not play until he has access to his ultimate ability or when it comes to teamfights. What you have to keep in mind though is that if Braum tags you with the first ability, you can die very quickly. Here's the guideline to avoid dying to a Braum. Number 1. Don't stand inside of enemy minions if he has access to his second ability. He might jump to a minion and force an all-in, which you cannot win. Number 2. Try to use minions as an invisible wall to avoid getting tagged by his first ability. If you get hit, you might see yourself respawning very soon. Other than that, beat him up, relax and enjoy the gameplay, but please don't walk into his melee range. Last but not least comes a champion that's quite the odd one. He isn't the strongest, but he is surely the most annoying one to deal with. Cinch is infamous for his ability to run around and cause distress for all people on the enemy team, sometimes even in your own team when it decides to flip an Amumu into you. But that's not the focus here. Cinch as a champion becomes unbelievably strong in a similar sense to Zaya. If the enemy team can only go into you, basically a composition of a lot of melee champions, he can buy Rylai's and Lianri's to slow and whittle them down. In this case, he becomes an insurmountable wall of poison that if you happen to walk through starts chipping away at your win rate. Especially champions such as Katarina despise Cinch for his grounding ability. Even though his goo isn't the best ability as it has an annoyingly long cast time, it can still turn an entire fight on his own. Why? Well, if you're stuck on his grounding field, you cannot use flash or any movement ability. So what does that do to Katarina? Bad things. Just take a look at it and enjoy the chase. With that, we're at the end of today's video. Thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel to never miss anything ProGuides ever again. See you next time.